Joining us on the program is a writer, director, film critic, social media maven, and lifelong horror fanatic whose work has been published on Bloody Disgusting and iHorror. She's also run some monthly columns on websites like Dread Central and Wicked Horror, and is the face and voice behind the wonderful YouTube channel Real Queen of Horror. She is Zena Dixon. Zena, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Oh my gosh, guys, thank you so much for having me. That was such a nice intro.
You deserve it.
They're your credentials. I didn't make anything up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we have you here with us today. I want to tell everyone how I met you. So I met Zena at the Fantasia Film Festival in 2018. And, maybe we knew each other a little bit online, but we had never met in person. And we ended up rooming together as we were both covering films for Fantasia. But it was an awesome experience. And Zena and I became quick friends. But I was super impressed by Zena's knowledge of horror movies. Like, seriously, it could be new movies, old movies, slashers, whatever it is. Like, Zena knows her shit. And so it's like the Real Queen of Horror moniker she totally deserves. So I wanted to add, I don't think I know this about you. I was kind of curious, like, how did you get into horror? Where did that deep knowledge start?
Well, first, Becky, thank you. Oh my gosh, you guys are making me feel so special with these intros and beautiful stories. Like, I really appreciate it. It was actually through my mom. My mom is a huge horror fan, and I remember, watching movies when I was like probably 3-4 years old. And, cause it was like any and every type of like horror movie. And yeah, there was some that maybe I should have never watched as a kid, but I do feel like I turned out fine. But yeah, it was all thanks to my mom.
Yeah, same. My dad my dad always would laugh during horror movies, and that like made me know it was okay, right? Like there'd be something really awful happening, but he'd just be laughing, and I'm like, all right, I guess it's cool. I guess I'm safe.
Yeah, I love that.
Were you, you're so into so many different ways of exploring the horror genre, right? Like through writing and making your own films. When you were younger and watching horror movies, did you initially aspire to make horror movies, or were you more interested in the journalism and film critique side of things initially? Kind of like, where did the buds of kind of a career start?
It started very young. I've always wanted to make horror movies. I have a pretty awesome family because they would entertain me, and, I would kind of have them reenact a scene that we just watched. And it was, like a lot of fun, me playing director and stuff when I was like 5-6 years old. And then I remember just growing older, just, obviously watching different movies, and really, really finding that I was into it when I was in high school, taking a lot of classes. At one point, I was even thinking about going to film school, but my parents were very strict educational wise. And, they didn't really see at the time, directing as a or being a filmmaker as like a career at the time. And I pretty much made a deal with my parents because at one point it was like I either wanted to go to film school or I didn't want to go to college at all. So I made a deal with them. Pretty much I promised that I would get my degree. And then afterwards, if they could pay for film school for me. And they were like really super supportive about it. But around that time, like I changed my mind. And also because of my job at the time, I moved. And then things were just, more of like movie based from there, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes when it's like you're just seeking out, like, instead of watching like traditional movies, like the movies that were hitting theaters, I found that I really wanted to explore more and watch foreign movies, movies from the 60s, 70s, 80s, just because I felt like there was so much that I've missed.
Yeah, and when you were growing up, what kind of movies were you watching then versus kind of what you started exploring later on in life?
Well, I really had a thing for like the late 80s movies. I know everybody's always talking about 80s horror movies, but aren't they great? Don't you guys love them?
Of course. You're talking to the right crowd.
Okay. So, I was really into 80s and 90s like when I was a kid. 10, 11 years old. And then by high school, I found that I was watching Japanese horror. That became like a really big thing for me. And then also even watching just like South Korean as well, horror movies, and then watching more movies from like the 70s. And that's when I actually watched like Suspiria for the first time. I found out, like, I discovered Dario Argento, and without even realizing it, like when I was a kid, I watched some of the movies, but I didn't know that that was like the same director. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it kind of just went on from there. And it's so weird because now I feel like people always approach me and ask me, how do I know what to watch? Like, how do I decide like on the next movie? There's sometimes, being honest, like sometimes it's hard for me, which I'm sure with you guys as well. It's hard to pick a movie to watch because there's so many streaming services. Obviously there's Netflix, there's Hulu, there's Tubi, there's YouTube, there's Vudu, there's Midnight Pulp. There's just so many. So it's always just hard just to pick one. But that's why I kind of started like this little list of just like some old horror movies that I've always wanted to check out. And then always just, obviously, it's like a list that never ends, because I find myself always just adding to the list.
Definitely. And there's so many great companies now that are restoring old films and bringing them to light for the first time. It's awesome. It's a good time to be a horror fan.
Right?
No, it really is. And you said that you were always into the idea of making stuff yourself, but how did you kind of initially get into the journalism side of it?
I kind of accidentally fell into it. When I first started my blog, Real Queen of Horror, this was in 2011. I believe, 2011. It was just like, I've always been really into showcasing creativity. Like, I remember when I was like 12, I was making like websites, because I was that nerdy kid. And, but I would never stick to updating it. I would always kind of like, say if I started like a website about kittens, because, kittens are awesome. They're a good time.
Yeah.
So I would start that, but I wouldn't always update it. And after a month, it's just like, that's it. It just goes like, dead silence and everything like that. So then I just, something that's always been consistent. It's always been horror. And I remember I moved to Florida in 2010. And, at the time I didn't have any family down here except for, my husband at the time. And we were still dating and stuff. But, he was always very supportive about, what I wanted to do. And I was very like close to my family, like a very close knit family. And just the fact that they were like hours away, it was just hard. But what stayed consistent, honestly, was me watching horror movies. That's something that's never changed. And I know that sounds like super duper like simple, but think about it. You move to a new place. You're like over 15 hours away from your family. And the one thing that you, besides from, the love of your life, the one thing that you have that's always consistent, is horror movies. And obviously there was horror movies there. And at the time I would go to the movies. I would go to video stores because there were still some around for some reason. And, that's why I was able to meet some people who really love horror. And then I know my husband, bless his heart, he's not a horror fan. So it's nice that he'll listen, that even at the time he would listen to me talk about all these great movies. But I know he was tired of hearing me talk about it. Even like the same thing with my family. Whenever I would go visit them or they'll come to visit me, I just wanted to tell them about these wonderful movies. Like besides from my mom, like me and her, we're like, she gets it, but it was getting a little bit out of hand, I was calling my mom about this one about movies. So I just thought, this would be great, a great way for me to, meet people as well as really get out of my shell, because I am a very shy person. So, sometimes it's hard for me to like express myself. So I thought, putting it together by starting Real Queen of Horror, this could be a good thing. And throughout the years, there were some great opportunities that came about, like writing for, I think probably one of the first outlets I wrote for. There was this website called FloridaGeekScene.com. And I would go to some of the local events, in the Tampa area, in Orlando area. And that's how I met the editor-in-chief of that website. And because of that, I was able to go to a couple conventions. That was really cool, like Walker Stalker Con, Spooky Empire a couple of times, and I would just kind of report back to them. And even like some of the smaller conventions that would be in the area. So that was really cool. And then after that, there's been other opportunities, and it was just, it kind of just grew from there.
Great, and I am familiar with Florida Geek Scene. I was involved with them way back when I was kind of doing a comic book hustle for a few years in the mid-2000s.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm sure I saw your name on that website at some point, too, just not connecting dots then. But you said you were starting the Real Queen blog. Did the blogging did you send out any kind of samples to these sites like Dread Central eventually, or did they pick up, did they reach out to you? How did that come about when you became a columnist and just a regular writer for some of these sites?
So I think with Bloody Disgusting, I reached out to one of the head writers there, and he was super cool. And he basically kind of took me under his wing, where it wasn't like I was officially a writer. He wanted to see what, exactly I could do. Zena Dixon, by the way. And he was really helpful. So I would do like top 10 list. Top 10 people, as an example, you shouldn't invite to Thanksgiving dinner. Or it would just be like, I would do more like holiday themes, like when it was back to school, like, top back to school movies. So we kind of tested that out for a couple of months, maybe 6-7 months, and that was a blast. And then from there, I wrote for iHorror.com, and the owner of it, Anthony I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but it starts with because I will slaughter his last name. But he lives in the Tampa Bay area. So we kind of connected that way. And I wrote for them for a couple of months as well. And also I used to do videos for them when they were active with their YouTube channel, like basically just reviews and also like top 10 lists. And there was, I don't know if they still do it anymore, but there used to be like this film festival that would take place in St. Pete. The Sun Festival, Sunscreen. Wow, you remember.
Spent half my life in that region.
See, so you get me. So yeah, so I would cover that for them and just, cover like the horror movies. And that was like that was fun. And then with Dread Central, this was like 2-3 years ago, maybe. Jonathan Barkin, who he was the editor-in-chief at the time, he actually reached out to me along with some other writers that he wanted to hear kind of like our voice. And he offered us like a monthly column. And it could be any topic that we wanted. And that was really great because on top of that, I wasn't only doing like the monthly column, but because of Jonathan, I was able to do like set visits, interviews with people who were just like, there was this one where I was able to like check out like the Creep Show series set as an example. And Tom Savini, he's just sitting there and then I have to be a normal person. I can't be like, oh my God. Right. And I think I was the only like horror fan that was there at the time. So there was like other people like from Variety and other websites and stuff. And it's just like, I remember there was a guy, he told me, oh, yeah, it was my first time watching Creep Show. I just watched it last night. I wanted to strangle him, but it's fine. So that was a blast. And then even like I'm a big fan of the Annabelle series. And I know like the first one, some people don't really like it. And, I don't mind it. But then the second one was like my jam. And I just loved it so much. But being able to do the set visit for the third one, Annabelle Comes Home, and seeing like Annabelle in person, not the real Annabelle, but the Annabelle in the film. And that was just like, it just gave me all the feels and just made me feel wonderful.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. And as kind of I've known you, watched your career and kind of looked back and seen a lot of the things that you've done, like you are an insanely hard worker and it takes a lot of effort, and starting from, building out your own blog. And I definitely did the Blogspot thing too. Like I think when I was towards the end of my college time frame, probably just a few years before you started yours. And yeah, that's kind of like how I kind of started getting into writing for horror, but it does take a lot of work. But now you're a Rotten Tomatoes approved critic, so that's awesome. But it takes a lot of work to build up to that. So, and I think a lot of people there's a lot of folks that love horror movies and are interested in writing about them. What advice would you kind of give to other people that are kind of working their way up the chain and maybe don't really have a connection or anything? What would you recommend to them if they want to start writing about the horror genre?
I thought this is going to sound like super cliche, but honestly, it's just work hard. Like if you really love horror movies, horror series, like just the genre, do it because you love it. Not because you want to. I mean, getting paid, heck yeah, that's great getting paid. But, I don't think that I would have continued on this long if I didn't love it. So I would highly recommend like just having a love for it, have fun with it. And, not even trying to sound cheesy, but, especially even what's going on now, in the world, I know that things aren't that great. So it's just like sometimes you need to have that peace, like you need something that's going to bring you joy. And if that's not doing that for you, if it's just adding stress to your life, I don't see how you can continue on. It's like having that horrible job that like, yes, it's paying you, but it's like sucking the life out of you kind of thing. Like, should you continue on?
Right. It's always finding that balance with the hustle versus the sacrifices you're making to pay the bills.
Right.
So one way you have paid some bills before is you actually have experience as a social media manager, which you've done, if I'm not mistaken, for Dread's Film Line, right?
Yes.
How was that, and how did that, having a background in that help you kind of did the writing inform the social media or vice versa?
I think the writing did, like I kind of, I'm always telling people to shoot their shot, if you want something, go after it. And that's what I did. I reached out to them. just to see like, hey, do you guys need a social media manager, or need help with your social media? And at the time I was still working like my full-time job where the hours were so crazy. Sometimes looking back on it, I have no idea how I did it for like 3 years, but it was like 50-hour work weeks and stuff like that. Cause I still worked in social media, but it was for multiple CBD brands. Yeah, I could tell you the names off the air, but it was for multiple, brands, and it was fun. But social media, even when I worked with CBD, it was like I had to, you have to learn how to, like, as simple as it is, market it, right? How to get people to click this or retweet this or even to want to buy, to have an interest. And it was a challenge at first because honestly, I don't have a reason to use CBD. So I wanted to find a way to even appeal to people like myself to at least, have people interested in it. And I know like CBD can be seen as being like super scary and stuff. So that was, a challenge at first. But then after a while, after a couple of months, I got the hang of it. And then with, I didn't even answer your question yet, but with Dred's movie line, that was just like honestly a dream in heaven, because it was just like, I really love social media and I really love horror movies. It was like honestly the perfect marriage of being able just to talk about movies that you love or that other people love, like responding to people, working with influencers, working with filmmakers, like working with the directors and working with some actors, for videos and graphics. And that was like such a good time.
And did a lot of the work you do there kind of help as you were kind of, I want to talk a bit about your pivot over to your own YouTube channel and, transitioning from writing to a video format. And you've really kicked up a lot of the things you're doing for your YouTube channel into high gear in the last 6 months or so. But you're doing a lot. So I imagine a lot of the social media work really informs what you do on your YouTube channel.
Right. It was kind of like I wanted to transfer the skills to, Dread Central, to the company that I was working at. There were a couple of resorts that I worked with, even some smaller studios that I worked with. But with a lot of the creatives, or with a lot of people involved with the companies, they didn't really see the importance of social media. And, I find that that's the case sometimes. And I don't mind a challenge. Like, I can prove to you why social media is very important, actually. So, but with a lot of them, it was just kind of like we weren't seeing eye to eye with certain things. And so, I kind of wanted how I was feeling is like when I work with a brand, I want to be able to let that brand basically take it to another level. And not saying, well, I guess people weren't ready to be to the next level. I don't think it was that. I just don't think that they understood the vision. So it kind of made me honestly want to just create videos as an example. I really am a shy person. So it's just kind of like, and I know it's like I'm yelling right now, but you can't see me. So that's why.
I imagine lots of hand movement too.
Oh my gosh, yes. You know my life. That's pretty much how it is. But because of that, it was like I've always wanted to be behind the camera. I'm more of a behind the camera, kind of person. But I felt that, in order to even show horror in a different light, I just felt that, okay, somebody's going to have to do it. And I feel like it's going to be me. And I don't mind that it's me. So I just decided to put together everything that I've learned over the years. With the videos, even like with the editing, with the lighting, with the content creation, and just, go for it, because there's, even with some of my older videos, you see there's a change and, with the way it looks. So it was just, I just found that I've had like a lot of, like over the years, because of the short movies I would do, I have like a lot of filming equipment that at the time when I was working for other companies, I wasn't using it and was just, sitting in a shelf. It was sitting on a shelf,
Yeah. And I think sometimes people do take for granted how much work goes into creating like really good content for YouTube, whether that be like streamers or more of like the style of entertainment that you're putting out there. But you're not just, the face in front of the camera. There's so much going on outside of that, whether it's like, there's so much time spent in video editing, and then all the graphics, and yours are pretty graphics intensive too. And then just even like the lighting setups and setting up the cameras and all the gear. Are you doing all of that, or is anybody helping you with that?
I have a team. So I have a team, and earlier this year, I was just kind of going over like just some of the goals that I have, that I, had at the time, because the previous job when I was working at this multiple CBD company, I decided to step down from my position in December to concentrate more on video creation and as well as just to be more of a freelancer. So that's been working out for me because I found that I was driving far, I live in the middle of nowhere. And then also I was, my weekly, like my hours were crazy. So I really didn't have any time at all. So now since I can like set my own schedule, that's been easier. And then with the team that I have, they've been super helpful with everything and understanding. And so then that way, because it's like I couldn't imagine even doing it alone because I found that I would be stressed out putting things together.
Yeah, it's a ton of work. And, it's one of the things I noticed about your videos. It's not just like I, filmed everything with my cell phone and put it up. Like even though it's like very fun and like, even kind of like has a campy vibe at times, but that's still a lot of behind the scenes work. So I definitely acknowledge that. And that must have been it was a very brave decision too, to like step away from like full-time consistent work and like really lean into this. It's like, I'm kind of jealous of your bravery there.
It was honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. It was very, very hard, especially because, I think about the position that I was in. I worked hard to get there. So it's like I started off as a specialist and then I made my way up to, senior manager. And it took, obviously it took 3 years, but I worked hard for that position, even to see people working in social media. Like a lot of people don't find that role very important when really it's kind of like, that's a very analytical role that you're in, because there was a lot of reporting. And then the company I worked at, there were 4 different brands. So it's like, and you're handling all the social medias. So imagine handling, as an example, a Burger King, a Pizza Hut, a McDonald's, or a Taco Bell. Like they're all completely different. And each one of them have their own separate social media. So like a Facebook, a Twitter, an Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok, YouTube. That was a lot of planning. So it was hard, but then I just always felt that I was not doing what I felt that I should be doing. So like it was hard. And I remember I spoke to my husband about it. I mean, at first, I was just going to quit. I know that sounds crazy, but at first, I was thinking to myself like, okay, why am I not happy? Is it the job? And honestly, the job that I worked at, everybody was super great. They were very understanding. I worked with a really great team of like super talented people. So it was hard leaving the team. But then I found like even when I was working there, sometimes at the time when I was writing for Dread Central, sometimes I would have to do like a set visit, or when I would take time off to go to Fantasia, I'm using like, my personal time, of course, but it was like I was never really getting a break, even though like working for horror and working for Dread Central and doing videos, it never really felt like work. It was always fun. But I felt that it just came to a time where I knew like, all right, it's time to go. Because I remember I had like this really like back-to-back meetings, and then I had like 2 hours free, but then I had a interview call, and that interview lasted like an hour and 45 minutes. So that was still like, it was just hard to balance. So even though it's like, usually I remember when I told my sisters this as an example, they were just so jealous. And it's just like, it's still kind of stunning that I did something like that, just because this is not something that I would normally do. Like I would always just keep like a day job. And this is like the first time ever where, I'm kind of, cheesy as it sounds, like really tackling the dreams. But at the same time, I don't feel like I'm putting my career like last. It's just I kind of transitioned over to freelancing.
To the point of, Becky had said your YouTube channel, which has a lot of fun, everything from listicles to deep dives, breakdowns, stuff like that. A lot of it, is lighthearted, but you did post last month a very terrific video about an important topic that resonated with a lot of folks called Being Enough in the Horror Industry. And it was, a powerful message about gatekeeping, which is just so prevalent in every kind of nerddom, fandom, subculture that goes on in all these industries, but particularly for people of color and, women of color. What inspired you to tell that story about your own experience? Or was there anything that was the impetus of it? Or was it just more, it's been in the back of your brain since day one because of seeing disadvantages or seeing other people getting advantages you didn't?
Well, thank you for checking out the video. I really appreciate it.
Oh, certainly.
Honestly, it's always been in the back of my mind. And I literally, like when I first decided, hey, I'm going to start doing videos, and I planned out the content for the entire year in January. And then I just wanted to just film in bulk, film certain episodes ahead of time. So I'm very straight to keeping like a schedule. Like I'm very serious about my schedule. But there was just something that told me, you know what, this is your time to say your piece. And normally I have never spoken about, any of my experiences like that. Like, seeing what's going on sometimes in the community, even in the horror community, and people speaking their piece. I've never felt that I could say anything at the time. And I didn't feel like there wasn't really anything pushing me to say what was going on, and for the longest time, like I swear, I tell you, I wasn't too sure what it was. It took years for me to figure it out. And not even saying like that's the way it is. I actually did have someone tell me that I'm lying, about my experience, which is fine. Like, there's nothing to be, upset about or anything like that. It is what it is. I just really wanted to like just share my piece. And it was kind of like a thing that I literally like decided the day before.
Oh, really? So it just came about rather quickly from conception. Let me guess. The person that told you you're lying looks like me.
I have no idea because I couldn't see
I'm willing to bet.
I couldn't see their face. And I mean, that's fine. Like, it's just, all I mean is why I say that it's fine. Obviously, you can live your life and say whatever you want. It's just like, I'm not someone who goes around telling random things. I feel like there could have been so many times, that I said something about something, or stuff that happened in the past. But, I don't really like to dwell on things, and I didn't feel the need to, so even with this person that feels like I'm not telling the truth, or that's not how it was, and it's just like, you act like you were there. So that's why it just honestly doesn't bother me.
Yeah, and I think, Zena, since I've known you, you're like one of the most ethical, and I don't know, just like you're not a person that wants to play cards. Like, you're like a genuine, honest person, and I think it sucks that there's maybe a thread, and I think especially for women and people of color that, just by like sharing their perspective and experiences that, there's concern about potential blowback from people that, they're like, oh, I don't want you talking about politics when you're supposed to be just talking about horror movies, right? Or why are you playing the token minority card here? You get all that kind of bullshit essentially.
Right.
Were you concerned about that when you were making your video, or it sounds like it was so spontaneous? Maybe you're just like, I'm just going to do it and see what happens.
It was exactly like that. Like, at first, I remember I brought it up I was talking to one of my sisters, and she was like super encouraging and saying how, like, because she's known for years, sometimes when you're, you confide in people and you tell them, how you're truly feeling, like that person knows the real you. They know the real deal, like, where it's just like, I don't have a reason to lie to her. So I know that she knew my truth, and she was very encouraging, and she just told me how this could perhaps help someone else, because there were times where, you do feel alone. You do feel you second guess yourself. And it's not even trying to sound dramatic. I don't always like to think about it. I don't always like to relive some of those things, because I think about there were times where I literally did not feel good enough. Like, where it was just like, okay, well, you have to, like, I found myself like picking myself apart, and it was honestly really sad. And so it's like, I think about those late nights and even those phone calls I would make to my sisters, or those conversations I would have with my husband. And not trying to be negative, but, when something, you keep on having like doors slam after door after door, you try to improve, you try to pick yourself up every single time. But, sometimes it gets to you. But I can honestly say now, like, because I could not understand like why I was going through it. I just feel like I really would want to be one of the examples for people who may feel like me. Even like I was telling you guys earlier, it's like, I really feel like if you have the passion, like if you really, really love something, and it's like, I can honestly say I really do love watching horror movies. I love the feeling. I think back to, when I was a little girl, when I was like 5, 6 years old. So I guess with the video, I was trying to talk to myself. I was trying to talk to 5-year-old Zena, just because it took me a very long time to get to the point where I'm at now, that I know what I like. I know who I am. I don't have to prove anything. And because of that, I'm a goofy girl that loves watching movies.
I wonder too if part of that kind of was culminating too behind the scenes in your, decision to transition to freelancing, because now you're not accountable necessarily to anyone but yourself, which is probably kind of freeing in a way, like you don't have to be enough for anyone but yourself, right? Obviously, you'll still deal with like comments and people online because it's the internet.
Right.
But like being able to, maybe work for yourself, I just wonder if that maybe plays into some of that culmination of things as you're kind of self-actualizing and, finding your own identity, over the course of your career.
Yeah, and it's been great, obviously, because of that too. But it's also been mainly, this sounds super, super selfish, but I also wanted to control my schedule. And, being able to work with, there are people that I work with, but it's not as, like, I'm not working 50-hour work weeks. And that's awesome. I don't have to wake up at like 5 a.m., anymore, because I'm definitely not a morning person. So that's great. And then even with, I don't mind obviously talking to people, talking to like the different clients and getting their needs or responding to emails at weird hours, but it's not no, you have to respond like right now. So like sometimes the latest phone call I'll receive, it'll be like 10 o'clock and I'm already up, or even the earliest one, because most of the companies that I work with, they're on the West Coast. It'll be like honestly after 10. So it's been great. And then even choosing certain days off. So, unfortunately with what's going on, like I know with us staying indoors and stuff, I kind of was already doing that. So it hasn't really been too bad for me.
No, I don't think it's selfish to regain control of your schedule. I think that's something a lot of people are learning about now, especially because so many people are quarantining. They're finding that they have a lot more hours in the day that they would be using like commuting or just like wasting time at the office. So, and I think a lot of people are finding a lot more freedom in that, which is cool.
Pretty true.
So kind of, speaking of telling your own stories, wanted to talk about your pursuits as a filmmaker. You're clearly well versed in the video medium, from YouTube channel speaks to a lot of that, but I know you also make short films. How did you start kind of dipping your toes into narrative filmmaking? And you talked about, directing your family when you were a kid. When did you kind of start playing around with an actual camera? I
want to say maybe middle school. My parents at the time, they were always my parents. What? My parents, I'm sorry, what was that? My parents, they were super supportive, and they actually bought me like my first camera. It was like this Sony Handycam. I think I still have it actually. And I was really excited about it. It came with some little tapes and stuff. And I was like, yay, right? So I would just kind of, take it to school and, make movies and stuff, during my lunch break. And then more as I got older, like in high school, there were a couple of film classes. High school and college, I took a couple of film classes. And then after college, it was I was working at this, it was like this personal gym, a very small gym. This guy, he owned it and he would make his own products. So we would shoot like commercials, and then it would air on like TV, and I'll have to take it to the local TV station. So it was really cool, doing that, because even though it was very short, it could have been like a 45-second little commercial or a little ad. He gave me creative control over that. Plus, he wanted to, gain more members and stuff. So we were trying to find ways to do that. But then I found because I wanted to dabble in that, and I stayed at that job for a long time. He treated me well. It was a very great job until I moved to Florida. And then once I moved down here, and, all of my family at the time, they were all in New York, and they would only come down to visit like once or twice a year. And then I would go up once a year. So in between that time, I remember working a little part-time job, and then I was always filming. And then also that's when I started my blog, but I was filming like shorts at the time. And I'm sure you guys know how it is. Your first couple of movies, they're terrible. They are terrible. And people will tell you. They will tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Face. Yep, straight to your face. I remember I posted one of my movies on my blog, and there was this one guy. He was always known as a troublemaker. And, usually when I know that someone doesn't like me, it's just like, you know what, I'm going to be nice to you. Maybe you just need someone to be nice to you. So I remember he said, and I quote, "Wow, this movie sucks. Are you serious?" And it had so many question marks. And my little heart was so hurt. And I just said, oh, okay, well, thank you for watching. And then, I would post some other things. And then I've noticed over time his comments, they were less harsh and he would actually give me pointers. And we actually became cordial and better. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I think, you speak to something I think is a lot of what YouTube and the internet in general with the anonymity. As soon as you make a human connection to somebody, they can suddenly feel like, oh, I might have hurt a human being there.
Right.
He was a little less harsh to you from that point on because you responded with, oh, okay, thank you.
It was just shocking because, I know it was bad, okay? And I even knew at the time it wasn't that great. And everybody else, they were lying. Whoa, this is great, and it's like, that's nice, but I know you guys hate it. But at least he was truthful. But no, and then from there, I just, I wanted to find out how I could improve. And so I kind of would watch a lot of YouTube tutorials. I would experiment just with some lighting, with some camera angles. If there's an angle that I like I'd rewatch certain movies and then try to recreate that scene by myself or that angle. And worked on some film sets, in the area for smaller movies and stuff, and that was pretty cool seeing how other people handle themselves on their own set. And so, seeing some of the things and learning things and working with different personalities, it just comes to a point where it's just like, all right, I think I could do this and I think I will. And then you try it and then you just keep on trying to get better.
So to the point of you sharing some shorts, do you have, plans to continue making them now, or do you have an aspiration to maybe get a feature off the ground? And if so, are these things that you're going to kind of keep balanced with the YouTube channel?
Well, yes, I'd love to, work more on some movies. I have been working on a feature, and since February, I made one short, and I was thinking about putting it out, but then, I'm being a little bit nitpicky, and I feel like there's some things that I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not a big fan of it, so it's like I may want to go back and switch some stuff up. I don't know. I just feel like I'm my biggest critic. So because of that, I'm just careful now about what I put out. And I know it's kind of like, oh, you have to start somewhere, but it's like I want things to be a certain way. But I am working on a feature right now.
Ooh, that's cool. Are certain subject matters really appealing to you for other films or subgenres that you want to explore? Or I don't know, maybe you can, if there's anything more you can share about the feature you're working on, that'd be cool to know what's going on in Zena's world.
Well, I love supernatural, and I find what scares me is more psychological type of horror. Slashers are very entertaining and they're fun. Even when I think about, I just like to play mentally, Well, I don't know if you guys seen this movie as an example. Terrified. It's on Shudder.
I haven't seen it yet. It's been on my to-do list forever. I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so
I know of it.
With that one as an example, which I highly recommend that you both check it out because it's really creepy. It freaked me out. And, I feel like we all watch a lot of horror movies. And it gets down to a certain point sometimes where it's like, oh, nothing's really scaring me. Yeah, that movie scared me a lot. And because of that, it scared me because it was more psychological. It wasn't right in your face. It was it could even be the camera will be on something like a black space, as an example. And then mentally it's just kind of taking you away. So that's what I think about when I even think about that, or even when I think about A Tale of Two Sisters, the South Korean horror movie. That one is a psychological horror. And there was a particular scene where it's just the camera is stationed on the stove. And it's just kind of okay. But then the way that the camera is really slowly zooming in, and then what's happening around it, it's what is under there? It's super scary. So with the feature that I'm working on, it is more, it's a supernatural tone and very psychological.
Awesome. And I think they're doing a US-based remake of Terrified. Yes. I know that it's the same writer, but I don't know if he's directing. So I don't know. Maybe they should give you a call, Zena.
Oh, my gosh. No, that's too much. I would run away. But no, that would be really cool. And I heard about that. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm curious to see. I really hope that it will still be scary. I feel like the scares will still translate. The movie, it will definitely still translate.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're referencing to with a Tale of Two Sisters. So it's just that very creepy atmospheric horror that's using tension with the camera and building suspense and making you question is something there.
Right.
Yeah, That's awesome. Are there any short films that you'd like us to direct people to of yours from your work? Like I've definitely seen She, which I really dig. It's like this very simple but kind of poetic short film that I really love. We'd be happy to link to anything too in the show notes.
Oh man, you guys are so awesome. No, I think She is perfect for people to check out.
Great. We'll put a link to that so people can get a flavor of your work.
Oh, thank you.
We will move into the second half of this, which is our what we call a rapid fire 15. It's
oh my
sort
gosh.
of, if anybody's familiar with James Lifton's Inside the Actor Studio, it's kind of his Proust questionnaire, but tinged a little more towards genre and especially to the guest of what we know about them. So you being quite the horror aficionado, like Becky is as well. Although I think she might bow to you in that regard. You seem to have some niche knowledge that even she is in awe of.
I don't know, Becky. I think that I've seen that you watch the movies as well.
Well, it's not a competition. It's not a competition.
This is in competition with yourself, Zena. We're about to hit you with rapid fire. Don't think too hard about it. It's truly just like kind of a measurement of your taste. You can just say the first thing that comes to mind. Nobody will hold you to any of these forever. But if you're good, we'll jump in.
Okay, I'm nervous, but okay.
It's funny. Everybody gets a little nervous.
All right. Question 1. What movie do you think you've seen the most in your life?
Night of the Demons, Kevin Tenney's 1988.
That's a good one.
That was like right off the tip of your tongue. I love it.
Yes.
Okay. What is your favorite bad movie?
Trolls 2.
It's a classic.
But truly bad. Objectively terrible.
But it's so much fun, and the Neil Bog thing is just ridiculous. Like,
oh yeah, one of my favorite back in the horror blogging days. Somebody had a blog called Nil Blog, and I was so jealous of that pun.
How about your favorite horror movie franchise?
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Okay, I guess what's coming to mind, Final Destination.
Nice.
We've had that answer before, and we're okay with it.
I don't know. I find like it's a lot of people don't always give it enough love, but yet it's like I get that there's a lot of them, but there's a point to it. I mean, minus the fourth one, but the fifth one, I really liked it. I really dug the fifth one. Man, I want to change my answer now, but no, okay, it's fine.
Wait, what else came to mind?
Okay, well, also what comes to mind is Wishmaster.
Oh, love it.
I know that it's so cheesy, but I love it. And, I want people to, put some respect on the Wishmaster, so.
I want to go back and rewatch. I think I've only really seen the original. I should go back and check them out. I love the concept of it.
Right? It's super fun. And, he's a genie. He's an evil genie. We don't really talk about evil genies.
Yeah, come on. Bring back the evil genie discussions. What is your favorite horror subgenre?
I'm going to go with slashers.
Nice.
Evil genies.
Evil genie slashers.
How about your favorite horror movie remake?
I'm going to say Maniac.
Oh, good choice. Good choice.
I feel like that one gets, a lot of people, forget about it. And I'm not going to lie, when I first heard that they were remaking it, I was so upset about it. And then, that was the last time I was upset about, honestly, a remake. But I was really upset about it because I'm a huge fan of the original one. But then when I watched it, like literally 30 minutes in, it was just like the best thing. I just feel like, Elijah Wood, he did a great job.
Oh, yeah. I think that would definitely go in my top 5 remakes. I don't know if I can come up with maybe The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing would be the one that comes to mind for me, but Maniac is good.
Well, wait, Sean, you have to tell us yours.
Oh, The Thing is definitely there. I think The Blob is one that nobody talks about enough as a good remake.
Yeah, it is good. It's fun. All right, next question. Who is your favorite ghost in 13 Ghosts? Either the original or the remake.
Okay, with the remake, the Jackal. I was just talking about it.
I saw your tweets. I'm like, I want to ask her a 13
Oh my
Ghosts
God,
question.
I think I was maybe like 13, 14 at the time when I watched it. And like that thing scared me. It was just so angry, and its head in the cage and it's like its hair blowing in the wind. It's very upsetting. So I don't know. Sometimes I still think about it. Like this is like TMI, but sometimes when I wake up in the middle of the night because I have to use the bathroom, I just think about it. Like, I don't know why.
Yeah, and it's like every shot of him too has like, do they have like a mini fan accompanying him everywhere? It's like his hair's always blowing, and it's like, get a strobe light and one of those little fans and follow him everywhere.
Oh.
How about your all-time favorite final girl?
Oh my gosh. Wait, no. Is there a time limit?
No.
No.
Okay.
You can think about it. It's cool.
Thank you.
A couple of these were based on, I thought you had some lists of these on your YouTube.
Oh my gosh, but that is such a great list, though. That's something I should talk about.
Yeah. I can tell you mine if that would help.
It will, yes.
So Ginny from Friday the 13th Part 2 is definitely one of my favorites. She's just like, she's so smart, but she's very real at the same time. So she's like way up there for me. And she's like psychoanalyzes Jason, and not a lot of final girls ever really like stop to do that. So she has this empathy with them as well as she just kind of like kicks ass at the same time. So I really love Ginny. And of course I love Laurie Strode from Halloween, because Halloween's my favorite movie, so I feel like I have to say Laurie Strode too.
Okay, well, all right, I feel a little better. At first I was thinking I wanted to go with, Tina from Friday the 13th, New Blood, because Tina was super cool. I know that she's a little bit whiny, it's like she was complaining the whole entire time, which is understandable, but I like Sydney from Scream.
Oh, yes. Oh, I want to add Sydney to my list too.
I think she was like, relatable, and you felt sorry for her. She was just like a regular girl, and next thing you know, all her friends are dying, and look at her, But also, Christy from Hellraiser, she was a very powerful woman, I thought. So, but I don't know. I guess I'm gonna stick with Tina.
That's a good answer. I like it.
We'll accept the shout outs in the show notes when you make that YouTube video.
I will.
All right. Who is your fashion icon?
Oh my God. Okay. I recently rewatched Vamp, and Grace Jones is just a goddess sent from above. And sometimes I just want to be her. Because Who doesn't? She's just a powerful woman. So I'm gonna stick with her, because it's like there's a balance. I know that she could be a little bit bizarre and stuff, but then when she dresses like down, it's still very like high end and just like, whoa. Like if I was shopping and I saw her, oh my God, I would try to hang out with her. Like, I don't know how. How do you pick up a girl to be your friend? I don't know, but I would try.
I think she'd pick you up and put you on her shoulder. She was quite an imposing figure. Or at least the Conan movie made her seem that way.
Let's go.
Are you a video game? Are you a gamer, would you say?
I dabble. I dabble a little.
Do you have an all-time favorite video game?
I used to be super obsessed with Chrono Trigger when I was a kid.
Oh, I played that a lot too.
It was so great. You felt like you're like really accomplishing things, getting things done. And I just remember like, cause there was like Super Mario and Mario Kart, like all those other ones in Sonic and stuff. But this was like, I think that this one was like my first real RPG.
Yeah, that, and I played Secret of Mana a lot.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, so awesome. All right, what is your most favorite concert experience?
Oh my God, Becky.
No. I'm sorry.
And I know you guys are probably going to be like, you know what, the show is over. End it. Hang up on her. I've never been to a concert.
We've gotten that a few times from some guests. That they just haven't seen many, or they've only seen like a show at a festival that they went to, or something their parents dragged them to. So if you've never been to one, that's fair. How about we can sub it with, you have a favorite musical artist?
Okay.
Band or solo artist? I
do. So, okay, it's kind of a very weird mix. So I really like Travis Scott. I just think that he's cool. I want to hang out with him, make him a cup of tea. But then it's like, I really also like Coldplay. I think that it's just like a perfect mix. There is a song for everybody when it comes to Coldplay.
I will say they're an easy punchline for people nowadays, but with the fact that after their fourth album, they changed their sound 3 straight times, you can make the argument that that's true, because they've shifted gears a couple times to the point where I find their most recent stuff a little unrecognizable. But I won't lie, I did love the first few albums they made, as every person in the 2000s era seemed to, because they were like the highest selling band, I think, across that first decade of the 2000s. Becky's quietly judging me because I think she and Brad are metalheads, but
Oh.
Well, I'm not judging. I just don't like Coldplay. Like the one person. I don't know. It's just never appealed to me. But that's why I'm remaining silent.
Oh.
I'm not judging, though.
silent.
I'm just quietly not liking Coldplay.
That hurts me, though.
Oh, no. That's the last thing I want to do.
I got a short anecdote is my wife was never a fan either because she was much more into punk rock and stuff. And then we watched that documentary Young at Heart. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it's where the guy went into the old folks home and he was like teaching them kind of choir practice, but instead of the normal hymnals and stuff, he was teaching a lot of alt rock, like Arcade Fire songs and stuff like that. And the whole movie ends with these old timers singing Fix You, which was off the X and Y album of theirs. And it made us both just cry tears.
Oh.
And from that moment on, she was a fan of that song and then kind of slowly became a fan of them more.
That's beautiful.
So maybe I need to show Becky that documentary.
Yes.
It's as a gateway drug.
Well, it's a loaded. I mean, that scene is loaded without spoiling stuff, but like it's about an old folks home, so you can imagine what happens throughout movie with senior citizens. So it's loaded by the time they get to that number. But yeah, it made a fan out of a lot of people fans of that song after that. But
all right, it might win me over. I will check it out.
Good.
All right, so what would be your walk-up music? Like your interest theme for your TED Talk, or if you're a fighter or a ball player? What's your walk-on music?
Oh my gosh. Okay. It's my time to shine.
Is that the song?
No.
I thought that was the answer for a split second. It's my time.
That actually sounds like that could be a song.
No, that is a song.
Oh my God. Sing it to us.
More so than I just did. It's my time to shine.
Ooh.
How's that go?
I don't know.
I guess, going back to even like Travis Scott, there's this one song from his latest album, Astro World, Butterfly Effect. It's a pretty cool song.
Right.
Nice.
I just realized that the reason I know that song is it's a children's song about the moon and the planets, and my kid played it a lot, and that's why I know that song. But I think it was taken from a real pop song, sorry.
You're back on the shine thing.
No, I like her answer a lot better.
We'll go with that answer instead.
I thought you'd probably just say the first song that you were saying.
Yeah. All right, one more music question. What are your go-to karaoke songs?
Ooh, No Doubt, I'm Just a Girl. That one's always like a must.
Don't you do Nirvana too?
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
Becky, you remembered. And
which track? Smells Like Teen Spirit?
Yes, of course. Smells Like Teen Spirit. That song, I feel, it just makes everybody want to dance and be who they are. Don't ask me how. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
I think a lot of angry 90s teenagers would agree with you.
I mean, both her choices are kind of 90s angsty tunes, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. As a fellow, well, I'm a former Tampa resident, and you are a current Tampa resident. Assuming you're not a vegetarian, who do you think has the best Cuban sandwich in the towns around there, the Tampa Bay area?
I don't know if I tried any of the Cubans there. Cuban sandwiches. Wow. Oh my gosh. You guys may want to.
You're not picking up Cubans and eating them.
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. But I haven't tried one in a Cuban sandwich, restaurant in Tampa, but I did try one in St. Pete, and there's one called it's People's Cuban Cafe, and they're just so great, and they really care about you too.
Aw.
No, that's why I said Tampa Bay area. I was trying to say towns plural. I should have just said like in the region. I guess that counts. People from outside of Tampa do think of like the Tampa St. Pete area as kind of one joined by a bridge, a couple of bridges.
All right, you might hate me after this question, but you have to kill one of these foods. Which one is it? Pancakes, waffles, French toast.
Pancakes.
Oh, no hesitation.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
My answer would be the same.
Really? See, I will argue that the greatest waffle I've ever had does not touch the greatest French toast or pancakes I've ever had. And I've had really good of all three, but I think waffles would be the easy out for me. Even though I eat French toast probably the least of the three, when I have it, it's very, very good. Waffles are just kind of there sometimes.
Yeah, French toast is definitely special, and it's very different. Like pancakes and waffles have similar qualities to them, whereas like French toast is unique enough that you can't cut that out. But like, I don't know, if I'm going to have pancakes or waffles take more effort, I feel like, and they're just better.
Oh, you guys talk like you cook things. I'm talking about as restaurant goer who does not cook anything. Waffles could be too crunchy sometimes, too gigantic. Pancakes are pretty consistent in consistency.
I don't know. Pancakes for some reason really tick me off because it's like
I'm going to pull that quote for later.
Because it's like, think about it. Okay, when you're making the pancakes, sometimes they can come out lumpy, and mine never ever turn out to be a circle. It's always some weird blob, right? Or if you do go to like a restaurant to get it, and then there's been a couple of times I'll like cut into it, like, you know, like the fork or whatever, using a knife, and it's just all like seepy because there's like,
what?
It's like raw, and it's like, what is this? But I have never in my life have had a bad waffle. Plus, I have a waffle maker, and it's super easy to use and easy to clean. So, and then French toast. French toast is a good time, and it always makes me feel like I'm some kind of like gourmet chef when I make them.
I love that. That was like the best rant against pancakes
Hold on.
I've ever heard.
Becky, have you had a bad pancake experience in a restaurant? I've never heard of pancakes coming out lumpy or with hardness in them. I must be very fortunate in life to have never encountered this.
At home, I've definitely had like the undercooked pancake or lumpy pancake. In a restaurant, I don't think so, but I've definitely had underwhelming kind of rubbery pancakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Like you can tell they just heated it up in a microwave or something.
Or like the kids menu version was the frozen ones that they just heated up. Okay. All right. I'll accept these answers. I just think waffles would be my pick still.
Fine. We'll agree to disagree. Let's move on.
We can't move on from that great answer from Zena.
You know what really grinds my gears? Pancakes.
I should just do a whole video on pancakes. And I think it's also because I have a niece, she's 5, and she's really obsessed with pancakes. And it's the weirdest thing because it's just like, first of all, if you're 5, like, you know, you gave her a little bit of pancakes and all she wants to eat all day is just pancakes, you know? And it's like, how can you choose pancakes over like, you know, I know, Sean, you prefer pancakes, but, you know, to a little kid, because a waffle looks cooler, you know? It has these little shapes and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
I think when they go in the toaster, they come out a little harder and crunchier. My son preferred pancakes. He ate nothing but. My son was like your niece. First couple of years of his life, he would take that over almost anything.
Oh, man.
But he has moved to waffles, so maybe there's something to it.
Yes.
All right, final question about this. One more food-related one. What is the very first restaurant, since everything's shutting down again, that you would go sit down and eat at once all social distancing and quarantining and masks are behind us? Are you missing a place that you're excited to go back to and just kind of relive the before times?
I wasn't really a restaurant person, so I know like people would just, you know, freaking out and stuff. But no, I wasn't really a restaurant person. Like I would eat a lot of I've always ate like a lot of home cooked meals. But I guess Texas Roadhouse. Because there's one that's nearby me, and it's like I would never go in there. And I remember I went there like one time, like a couple of years ago when I used to live in New York, and I had a great time with my sisters. And so it's like, oh, I should probably go there. But I was like, maybe sometime. And then now it's just like, you know, when am I going to go?
Now because you can, you want it more.
Yes.
Hey, that place is worth it alone for the fresh rolls they bring you with the cinnamon butter. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my gosh, yes. I remember I did love those.
I feel like we had this answer from someone else, too. Texas Roadhouse.
Did we really? I don't recall, but I would be surprised.
Cameron mentioned it. It's his wife's choice, I think.
That checks out. Yeah, I think you're right.
What about you guys? Where would you go?
I don't even know. You know, I'm lucky because a lot of the restaurants will deliver still, so I feel like I'm kind of still getting them. But more than anything, I think I just want to go sit down in a movie theater and get a big thing of popcorn and candy and Diet Coke and just, you know, get the largest sizes that I never get when I actually go and just like really invest in the experience. So that's not really a restaurant. But
you know what's crazy? I think we've talked about this. That's my answer too. Yeah, the Draft House. I don't just want to go back to the movie, but I also want to just go sit down and have, you know, the buffalo cauliflower and all that kind of nonsense, the chips and queso they have. And same thing, just get a giant soda.
Oh man,
they have one coming to Orlando.
Yes, I've been waiting. And it's like, just please come here. Like, at first I was a little bit disappointed. Like, why isn't it going to be in Tampa? But Tampa has, like, the Tampa Theater, and they're actually pretty cool. You know, they show, especially, like, around Halloween, they have Nightmare on Franklin Street. That is so great. There was one year that they showed Slumber Party Massacre, and they had some of the cast there. I was in heaven.
Cool.
Like, It was so great. I've been waiting for them to, Draft House to come back into my life, because when I went up to New York, and I'm so upset. So I lived in Yonkers, and, there were movie theaters and stuff like that. But no lie, the year that I moved to Florida, it was the year that they built the Alamo Draft House. I was so hurt. Like, how could you do this?
That just sucks. And I keep wondering why there's none in Seattle. It feels like it's not very far from LA. It just seems like a perfect place for it.
They have one in San Francisco as well.
But I think a big challenge is square footage and space. You need a really big footprint to be able to have one. And so I think they've been targeting places where they can kind of go a little bit outside of like a major city or like a more suburban part of the city or something, so that they can get a big enough space. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, if they're still in a good position after all this lifts up. Fingers crossed.
So that's the end of the official questionnaire, and we appreciate some of those answers. And you've already given us an all-timer with pancakes taking you off. You kind of mentioned your life didn't change too drastically with shutdowns, but what do you have coming up next beyond just, more YouTube videos? Do you have anything kind of on the docket as far as another short or something different for the YouTube channel?
Yes, there will be another short. I'm eventually just going to just put it out there. It just usually takes me a process. It takes me a little bit, which is so weird because I finished it, shot it in February, and then I finished like complete where it's like, okay, well, I could potentially still put it out there like in May. So, yes, I'll eventually will put that out, but I am working, I'm working on the feature, but then I'm also working on like another short as well. And with the videos, YouTube, there will definitely be another video. I'm working on one right now. So it's in the editing phase right now.
Awesome.
And that future co-presentation with the Paper Street podcast about the all-time greatest Final Girls.
Yes.
That one is so good. I can't believe,
I feel like you have to call it like the Laurie Strode honorary, because you can't put the most obvious. It needs to be more unique maybe than Nancy and Laurie.
Yeah, maybe it's like the 5 final girls you don't always think of or something,
Yes.
Yeah, underappreciated final girls.
There you go.
I love that. I do remember when I used to write for Bloody Disgusting, I think I had a top 10 most annoying final girls. Oh my gosh, I got bashed so hard. People were so upset. I really don't remember who was on the list completely. Well, I just remember 2.
Did you put Tina from...
No. You feel like Tina is...
No, you said she was a sort of whiny, and you're not wrong, but she's still a good one.
Yeah.
No, I think I had the 2. There's only 2 that I remember. One, Julie from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
Because she was annoying. I'm sorry. It was like, I couldn't with her. And then she just kept on surviving,
Oh, man. And doesn't she even karaoke I'm a Survivor at one point?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Like, oh, you can sing too, Julie,
Yeah.
And then,
I Will Survive. That was the song. I Will Survive. Sorry.
And I was really hoping that she wouldn't. I was like, please. And then also Natalie from Urban Legend. She really ticks me off. I'm sorry.
I just rewatched it and I was like, wow, she is the most uninspired final girl. Well, just they didn't give her character anything interesting, and she just kind of whines the whole time.
And it's like I've never, and I know it sounds so mean and I sound like a monster, but I really, really wanted her to die because I didn't see the point in her. She was so boring. And it's like, first off, why did that guy like her over her friend? I don't know, but whatever. And then, like you said, she was whining the whole time. There was one part, and I think I probably did. I did a video on this where I was talking about her. There was one part where she was just I guess she was talking to someone and they asked her something, and just the way she said no, just really just wanted, it just made me want to cut the whole thing off and throw my TV out the window, because it was she was just you could tell that she was practicing. Okay, now I'm just getting mean, but okay, I'm just not a fan. I'm not a
Natalie and pancakes. Get them out of here. All right. So if people want to see more of your videos and hear more of your thoughts, maybe in the future on Final Girls, but you have a huge repertoire of other things for them to check out. Where can people find you online? What should they go check out?
Oh, sure. So I'm always on Twitter. I love it so much. I get a little bit obsessed. My handle is Lovely Zena. And then also you can check me out on YouTube. You can type in Real Queen of Horror.
Awesome. Well, Zena, thank you so much. This has been really fun talking with you. And, in lieu of the Fantasia outing this year, since the fest is virtual, this will have to do.
Yes.
Yes, thank you again so much for the time and the good answers. And again, hopefully, do you mind if people reach out to you on there or even on your website if they have some questions about how to kind of, beyond the obvious hard work and due diligence, like some tips on how to create, how to get a YouTube page up and going, how to get a blog up and going?
Sure, not at all. There actually have been some people, sending me messages, emailing me as well. And you can find my email on my website. And yeah, keep them coming. I don't mind at all.
Perfect. And we'll make sure to have that stuff all in the show notes at paperstreetpodcast.com. So again, Zena, thank you so much. Love having you on the show.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.